There you go.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, well, I think unless anybody has any questions to start off with, I have some slides to just start off with, hopefully get the discussion going. And so I will share my screen does anybody have anything they wanted to share to start off? Or Fish, do you have anything you wanted to share?
Nope.
Nope, okay. Well, I'm gonna introduce myself, maybe that'll start other people introducing. And then I'll share my screen. Good morning, Avalon. Oh, okay. From Brooklyn and San Francisco. Great to have you here. All right, so this meeting is being recorded. Welcome, everybody. And this is a super informal discussion, so feel free to type in the chat or raise your hand. But just to get us started, I'll do a little slideshow. And hopefully that will get us started with a great discussion like we had last week. All right. I hope that everybody now is on the edX platform. If you're not, you should email us and we will try to figure out what's wrong there. We were a little bit late in getting some people the message, but I think we've taken care of that problem. And you all should have gotten the instructions on registering for edX. Okay, and we have 2 language groups so far. We have a Chinese language group. We also have a Persian language group. Everybody who's in the Persian or who is from either Iran, Afghanistan, or Tajikistan should have gotten an email from Dr. Zara Golshani, who's leading our Persian language group. And I think for the Tajik students, she'll have a separate group because the script is different, even though my understanding is that you can understand each other verbally. And then I don't know if there's been a Nigerian or African group started, but if there is, please post in the chat or raise your hand and we can learn about that group or other groups that maybe students are wanting to lead, just to have a conversation between people from their region or who speak the same language. Just a reminder of our webinars. We are going to try to get yesterday's webinar by Dr. Jessica Tietz about advocacy in China up by tomorrow. Do you think we can do that, Fish? So we'll post it. I assume you posted it in the WeChat group. We posted in the WhatsApp and Facebook groups as well as on the course site. And there's 2 places that it goes on the course site. One is under the week. There should be a webinar link. We also post the office hours under that link under each week. And then you should be able to also find the about the course, and that also has a link for all the webinars and office hours. So next week we have Dr. Hao Zhang, who is now working out of Thailand, and she'll be talking about forest climate governance in Asia. She also wrote a paper that you should have read the first week about Friends of Nature. So she was a graduate student, she was a PhD student in our department at Cornell, and she worked on Friends of Nature and other civil society governance organizations and issues. Fish, do you have anything to add about Dr. Zhang?
No, I'm very curious about what's going on with her recently. It sounds like a very new and exciting job. So yeah, much looking forward to it.
Okay, great. And then you can see the last week we have Mercy Abutsa, who's a Cornell professional master's student from Nigeria, and she founded Climate Do Nigeria. So I'm really looking forward to that since we have so many Nigerian students in the course and learning about her work there. Okay, this is an informal discussion, as I mentioned. The guidelines, please keep your remarks brief so everyone gets a chance to speak. Remember that our local contexts are very different depending on where we're from. And this is especially for talking about advocacy. And we did talk about that, some of the issues with advocacy in China. And I thought the greatest, one of the greatest comments Dr. Cheat said yesterday in our webinar was that there's really civil society activity and advocacy in just about every country, no matter what the form of governance, but it's more or less constrained by the form of governance. So the example she gave was, say, if you are in a country where advocacy might be dangerous or there's a lot of constraints, you might still work with your local apartment building or whatever to try to change policies just in your local apartment building. And that might be something that you could do safely. So just, I think, we need to be sensitive that we're all working in different contexts. So again, respect our differences and challenges, including safety concerns, and don't do anything to jeopardize your safety. So what is advocacy? We've had a little discussion about this on WhatsApp, and here's the definition from the first lecture in the course, the pre-recorded lecture. Advocacy involves working with government, businesses, and other institutions, they could be schools or universities, to change governance and financial systems. So the key word here is systems, right? It's not about changing what we do in our everyday lives, but it might be about changing a policy in our workplace. For example, say what we do with food waste or what kinds of meals are served in the cafeteria. And it can also involve changing local government or even state, provincial, or national government. And I think, and I can't remember the name, but I think it was Samuel last week, talked about how he was involved in global governance with organizations like the UN or the World Bank. So advocacy is about trying to change policies as opposed to lifestyle actions in which we reduce our individual emissions by, say, reducing food waste or driving an electric vehicle. Advocacy is about working collectively, that is with other people, to change laws and institutional rules. So why climate advocacy? We have focused on individual lifestyle actions in many of our past Civic Ecology Lab Cornell courses. But to address the climate or environmental crises, we need to change systems. For example, have new laws. The challenge that we face is opportunities for changing systems vary across different governance systems, and the opportunities to learn from each other across different countries with different governance systems. That's the opportunity we have in this class. So with that, I would like to throw it open. Does anybody have an example of efforts that they have taken to change policies at work, school, local, state, provincial, or national governments, or global governance organizations? Or do you have ideas about future advocacy actions that you would like to take to change policies? So I'm going to stop.
I'm Nicole, and so I actually have a question. I don't know if my activity falls in the advocacy category, but the end of last year, I did testify before Maryland state officials to help pass a law to increase wind energy on the Eastern Corridor here. So is that a particular example of advocacy?
Yes, definitely, because you were trying to change a law.
Okay.
So you were essentially lobbying, what we would call lobbying, to try to change a law. And that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Nicole. So did you do this with an organization?
Well, not really as part of an organization. I volunteer with Sierra Club, and we talk about a lot of different issues. And then there was an organization, actually a corporation, that came and they shared with us, about wind energy. And because I had already, known a lot about different types of renewable energy. I just thought it was something that I could lend my voice to.
Mm-hmm. Great. So was a lot of times when people go and testify so you testified in front of the
Yes.
state assembly or state government, essentially. I know it's called different things in different states, like the Senate or the Assembly.
Yes, I was just called the General Assembly, but it was really before a committee.
Oh, okay, a committee
Yeah.
that was focused on energy.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, great. And so, but did you do that by yourself or did you have your colleagues from Sierra Club come, or maybe you were doing it with the company that you mentioned?
No, I did do it by myself.
Oh, wow, that's very impressive because most of the time when this is done, it's, usually like when I've done anything like this, and I have not gone to Washington or my state capital, which is Albany, but we've done similar things over Zoom. But it's always with one of the organizations that I belong to, like Climate Reality.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah. Well, I know there were a lot of groups there, and
uh,
this has been a big issue, not issue, but a big talking point here in Maryland, especially since we passed Climate Solutions Now Act. So lots of actually individuals were there to testify, whether, they were opposed or for the wind energy.
That's great. How was the experience? Did you feel like your public officials, your representatives were listening to you or?
No, no, I do. I feel like they were listening. I got the sense though that it was sort of like half and half people in terms of the delegates who were for and who were not necessarily so convinced yet.
Mhm. And has there been any action by the committee since you testified?
Yeah, so there has been, unfortunately, I don't have the update yet. We have a very short session here in Maryland and it recently ended. So I generally look to larger organizations to get the updates. Like Sierra Club, they'll do a legislative breakdown like in May, the end of May, and they'll go over all of the things that were proposed. So they give a very thorough update about certain things.
Okay, great. Well, let us know. Maybe next week you'll know more.
Thank you. And
Let
I
us know
did
how
have
that.
one other question if no one else minds. I just wanted to try to grasp the understanding. I know there's a slight difference, but I'm struggling to still try and understand the difference between, I guess, the specific difference between advocacy and lobbying.
Lobbying is a form of advocacy.
Oh,
So you could also advocate, for example, you could write, well, written written letters instead of testified in person. And that's also a form of lobbying, but I don't know if you were able to come to any of the webinars, but litigation, so in other words, bringing a lawsuit against fossil fuel company would also be a form of advocacy. And I think it's in week 2 of the course where we have about 5 lectures, I think, on different forms of advocacy, lobbying being one of them.
okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Great. So it looks like Girid Haran has raised his hand. So go ahead and unmute yourself. And if you could pronounce your name and tell us where you're from.
I'm Giridharan from India. It's good
Great.
evening and it's good morning for you. Okay, ma'am. Actually, I was doing a project regarding environment awareness to the government school children. For advocacy, recently a district administration has asked us to take a new 100 schools, government schools, and they were asking, it was happened 2 months back. They were asking us to take a proposal, create a proposal for new schools with a curriculum. And 2 weeks back, he has passed a GO government order for the all 100 schools, and now it was into the policy. So now we are planning to take a new schools, 100 schools of environment awareness classes to the government school children from 6th to 8th grade.
Great. So that sounds like a really interesting example, but I didn't quite get all of it. So maybe you can explain a little bit more. So you're saying that you worked maybe with a group, I don't know, to change school policy? Were you changing school policy in terms of teaching about climate, or, yeah, maybe you can explain a little bit more.
Okay. Actually, it was a class on climate change and environment awareness.
Mhm,
And we were taking it was on a special class. Okay. It's not on a regular curriculum, academics.
mhm,
Now the government, district collector, he has asked us and he got inspired by our stories, and he
mhm.
told us that I'm gonna give my 100 schools of government schools in my district so that you can plan for that.
Oh,
And he passed the government order
mhm.
to all the 100 schools, and he told that this this includes local panchayat government. I mean the local government and the local self-help group, the women self-help group, and the local activist and advocacy people. It was about 5 members team to take the classes, the children.
So let me just repeat it, make sure I got it right. And anybody else, if you want to sort of help us understand what Giridharan is saying also. But my understanding is that you worked with a local government official, maybe a school official, and you were able to get these climate courses implemented in 100 schools in Punjab.
In Tamil Nadu. It's in India, a
Okay,
district, a state in India.
okay, yeah. So that sounds really fantastic, really great. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yes. Good morning, everyone.
Good
My
Morning,
morning.
name is-
Walter from Angola.
Yes, my name is Walter and Giri Dharam from India,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting project to start in developing countries, because when it comes to advocacy, we have some kind of resistance from the government in terms of accepting changing policies. Yeah, so I have been part of the environmental ministry department, specifically the Global Fund of Environment in Angola, and I have seen a lot of projects that were kind of failed, good projects that were failed simply because of the approaches that the government takes towards the civil servants initiatives. So my opinion and my experience tells me that the best way to start this initiative is to use institutions like schools, private schools or public schools, and even religious institutions, because in that way we can create more impact and be successful than simply using the government agency.
Yes, exactly. So that we were teaching school children in behavioral change and that attitude towards the environmental change and climate change, so that it will directly impact on their future when they grow.
Mhm.
So, and I use a terminology to the children as a future leaders. So, and I will tell them that tomorrow you will become a chief minister, prime minister, president, or anything. It may be any ministry. So that if you are becoming in the top position, you should think about what is happening. So it is it's kind of moral science class.
Great. So yes, thank you, Shiridhar and Walter. And Walter, it sounds like you're coming from the government perspective and saying that change is going to happen in schools and faith-based institutions.
I say that because Africa is one of the most vulnerable continents in terms of climate change. This because lack of education from the population. You know, people don't really understand the impacts of cutting a tree. For instance, people don't understand the impacts of burning trashes. So the best way to start these initiatives is and to gain audience and people coming together is to start from schools, to start from the church, educating people from the early ages, so that when we come in the upper level, people already know, people already know what it's all about. Yeah, because it's at the end of the day, yes, it's the government, but also the people people have to participate and address and coming together and making things happening at the grassroots.
Right. So, and when you say that the people at schools and in faith-based institutions need to be educated, is this they're educated to change their personal lifestyles? They're educated so they can respond to a climate disaster and keep safe. So what we would call climate adaptation. And or they're educated to pressure government to make different policies. So, what's the goal of them being educated? Sort of the foundational goal.
Can I add to this?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
In one way.
Just tell us where, why don't we let Walter answer and then you go, Vanita, and
Okay.
when you go, just introduce yourself. So let Walter answer first and then you go.
Yes, in one way, people should change their lifestyle and their practices towards conservation and protection of the environment. In another way, people should be aware of the dangers of the climate change, and as well as making pressure to the government to make the right policies. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Vanita?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Giridharan. We both are from Chennai.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So you're both from India?
Yeah, we're both from India and we're both from Chennai. I don't work so much in Chennai. I work more in the islands. But the idea of approaching schools, is for one, doing advocacy work in schools itself. It's trying to include certain things into the syllabus which are not there. Because in India, we have a common school syllabus which works all over the country. And the specific areas where we are working, children don't learn about them, about what is of concern over there. And so like I work in islands, and then in islands, the children, when I started about 20 years ago, the child knew everything about a coral reef and it protects the island, but they didn't know they didn't know how to express it and how, or the importance or what is a polyp. They just knew that there was a fence-like structure which was protecting their island. And so we started from there and working with schools, trying to include this into their syllabus. Because what Giridharan is doing, what I'm doing is not in the school syllabus. These are extra classes. We go and train the teachers, take the children and do field work with them, and so that they learn from doing more sort of inclusive, immersive learning. That's that's what I wanted to sort of saying. So when he says that the district collector, like in India, we have a state. The state is divided into districts, and the district collector is the highest authority of the district. So if the district collector was impressed with the work he was doing in his specific schools, and he said that we will include it in all the 100 schools in that district, it was a very major achievement in advocacy, that he was able to convince the administration to that this is important. That's what I wanted to say.
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
Right.
Vinita. Yeah, I appreciate that further explanation and what a big accomplishment it has been for you in India. Mila Celeste, do you want to unmute yourself? I see that you wanted to share something. Let's see. I don't see her.
I sent a message to her.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
maybe-
here's,
maybe
I'll
it's a
ask her to
connection.
unmute. Okay. So Mila had put something in the chat saying she wanted to comment, but we'll wait till she's able to add something. So for those of you, I have a question, since we're talking about schools for Vinita or Giridharan or others. Well, I'll just ask it for you because you're both from the same country, from India. So when you do climate education in the schools, are there opportunities for the youth to engage in advocacy, or would it be more you'd really need to focus on lifestyle actions? Does that make sense? Like,
Myself, okay.
Vinita,
Okay.
you're on.
Yeah, I was on mute, so I just unmuted myself. The idea over here is, once the children, I haven't been doing climate advocacy work as yet. It's been more environmental awareness and, this marine environment awareness. And this is why I joined this class, because I wanted to see how to bring in climate into this whole thing. But what we do make children, we encourage children to do, once the children get convinced of something, there's no going back on it. And so, so they then write letters to the, to the authorities in the island where they live, saying that we want to protect this and you have to help us. And they start talking, they start doing the work themselves, because it's their future. So that's the kind of we encourage the children itself to become advocates for the environment and for where they're living. So they they do both creative work, they do write letters, and then we have sort of a ceremony where all the the government heads and then their parents, everybody is invited to showcase what is the new knowledge that they have learned. So that's the kind of thing we want. We want the child to get immersed and get convinced that they have to do this thing. So that's what our aim is.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vinita. Mila, you're able to unmute yourself now, right? Can you introduce
Yes.
yourself, where you're from?
I am Mila Celeste from the Philippines. It's another developing country here in Asia. Well, I guess that's about it. I am a volunteer of an NGO.
Okay.
And for like 13 years already, one of our main program is the Sea Turtle Conservation and Protection Program. And because of this project, we very much got involved with the international coastal cleanup when, when it's the season for that. And way back 2016, we were like really doing it a bit more, how to say it, so that we are really felt by the masses of people. When we joined the International Coastal Cleanup, we started with very few volunteers, like just within our, I don't know, we have what we call like a barangay. This is like, I don't know the equivalent in your country, like within, it's a little village that we started in. Those who live, because our village is along the coast, and that's the reason why we have this sea turtle conservation program. But way back 2016, ICC of the Philippines invited us to take like a lead role with the International Coastal Cleanup. And so we did the whole campaign for our province. Entire province has like 20 towns in it, including the inland portion. We are not a very big organization as far as regular volunteer is concerned. But then what we did was we really made a very successful campaign in schools, especially public schools, because all we need is a permission and approval from the very head of the province. And then, and so we went school to school. For one thing, with schools, it's already a learning center. So it's very easy to teach them whatever our advocacy is. And we were telling them that in our province, there is this sea turtle conservation program, especially along the coast of our province. And apparently not so many people are aware of it. Even teachers, even some of the elders, some of the very old ones, they were aware of it, but they thought it's already gone. But when we discovered, like way 2010, that there are still sea turtles coming into our shore, so we started. That's how our program actually came into a bigger picture, and it was very easy. I mean, of course, it was big work. We had to go town to town in every school, but the teachers became our partners. That's for one thing. Teachers and principals, by the second or third year of the ICC, they were the ones speaking for us already. We don't need to personally go school to school and remind them, hey guys, it's ICC. It's not like that. And if you have participated with ICC, all the paperwork that you need to do, like all the data, you get all this information. The teachers were the ones helping us put it together, and putting together the data and sending it to us, this and that. So that's why the schools are very good partners, especially with whatever advocacy that we want to actually promote, and especially if it is also very relevant to their area. So I really very much agree with working with schools, especially public schools, because all you need is an approval from, like a district supervisor, and then they tell the principals, okay, there's this group doing this and that. They send all the facts and everything, endorsing us, and we just bring the sheet of paper, and it's like, there you go. Like very easy. And one of our experience also before we had this environmental project, we had a feeding program for the undernourished children. And it's like we were promoting already plant-based diet at the time without telling them that what we are feeding them is plant-based. But then our way of promoting it is that these are the vegetables. See, our province where I live is one of those having problems with malnutrition. And already for the past so many years, malnutrition has always been an issue. So when we came to this area, we thought of feeding the children, like letting them taste that you can have good food, it's cheap, this and that. And then also we monitor their weight and their their stamina, their agility. This is for like 4 months only, and it was very successful. And so then after that, we explained to them that these are all vegetables that are cheap and very much available around the neighborhood. It will not cost them so much. You see, our province is not, it's an agricultural place where a lot of children are actually malnourished. So there's a very big contradiction having malnourished children of farmers.
Yes,
So
thank
it
you,
doesn't
Mila.
make sense.
Yeah, that's super
So
impressive.
because of that, now the beneficiaries like 10 years ago are now coming to us, helping also volunteer, still with the same program. And this time we are very much upfront, telling them that what we are promoting actually is plant-based diet for the wellness of our people. So we have these two programs. So generally, the schools really are very effective. That's
Thank
the
you
main
so much,
point
Mila.
here.
That's super interesting, and I love how you're working cross-sector, like working to help people who might not have good foods, who have food insecurity, they might be malnourished, and integrating that with plant-based diet, which is an important climate issue, and then some of these other coastal issues. So thank you so much. And there's a few, check out the chat because there's getting to be a nice discussion. Okay, but I do have 3 other people with their hands up. So we're going to go to Gift and then Eric.
Thank you.
Jake. Thank you so much, Mila.
Thank you.
Gift. Yeah, if you could go, let Gift go first and then Eric, if Eric still has his hand up.
Okay, I just have a little contribution to make concerning the whole climate change advocacy. I'm from Nigeria. I do volunteer jobs with some NGOs and all that. And I just want to chip in about the school. Is a very, very good thing because I know that of recent, I and my teammates, we have to go to more schools. There's that saying that they catch them young. So we have to go to more schools to educate them about climate change, to educate them about the environment. And we came up with an idea whereby we did a game called the Plant Game, more like a what, whereby we distribute it to enable them know what the environment is all about, what the climate change is all about, so that can help them, that can help them to have that knowledge about our climate, our environment, because in Nigeria here, we are actually suffering from climate change, and due to the effect of waste here is a huge problem for us because there are too many wastes here and there, which most of the citizens here are waiting for the government to come and do those jobs. And in a situation whereby the government are not really, really fully involved, we have to do these things ourselves because you don't need to start waiting for the government to, help and every other thing. So we have to do this ourselves. So I and my teammates have taken it upon ourselves that, okay, we'll have to advocate, we have to go out there, we have to educate the schools, let them know that this is what is happening, this is what we are facing, this is the problem we are facing, so this is how to manage this situation. So we have to inform them about these things and how it's causing problem to our environment, so that the student also need to know, regardless of if they are small or they are big or they are thin, they need to know these things. So that's just my only 2 of contribution. So I think involving games also in schools is going to be helpful also, aside putting it in their syllabus based on education. So the games also is going to help also.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Gift from Nigeria. Really appreciate your perspective and the work you're doing with schools. Sheikh, do you want to introduce where you're from? And
Hello,
we'll
everyone.
go to Eloisa.
Hello,
After you.
everyone. My name is. You hear me?
Yep.
It's okay. So my name is Cheikh Cissé. I'm urban planner with a PhD in spatial planning. I live in Paris. I'm going to talk about natural basis solution in Senegalese cities. For me, big cities, especially coastal ones like Dakar, are easily impacted by climate change, like coastal erosion, urban island, flooding, and so on. And one of the most urgent solutions would be to promote urban nature solutions. But the general impression is that in Senegal, as in the most poor countries, climate issues are not treated as a priority. So in the face of the other pressing problems, such as access to the basic services like water, electricity, and so on, and inaction costs more than actions about climate change. A climate advocacy action is to organize resilient initiative with local communities, accompanied by financial solutions, a bottom-up approaches. And I'm looking for an organization I can work with Initiative Urban Nature Project in Senegal. I come from Senegal, but I'm a French citizen. And sorry for my English because it's not very...
That's great. We can understand you.
Yeah.
No problem. So you're working in urban planning, you're a French citizen. Do you have dual citizenship? Can you have dual citizenship, Senegalese and French?
Right now I'm in France. I'm a French and Senegalese citizens.
Okay. And you're looking at urban planning solutions for coastal African cities, basically.
Yeah. Especially in Dakar, capital of Senegal.
Yeah.
Where
and so are you, if you were working in Senegal, is there an opportunity to talk to, say, the government officials in Dakar about changing their policies towards climate adaptation or reducing greenhouse gases?
Yeah, I have an opportunity to speak with them. And I have many contacts with local mayors in Dakar region. And the most problem is to the urban it's. So the solution will be the natural basic solutions, basic solution in cities. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And Eloisa, did you want to add something? And please let us know where you're from if you want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eloisa. I'm calling in from Lenape-Land, otherwise known as New York City. I work on food systems from a justice-based perspective, animal welfare, and obviously mitigating the triple planetary crisis. I wanted to ask if it's possible or if there exists some sort of spreadsheet with our name, our organization, perhaps our contact number on LinkedIn. A lot of folks are doing such great work here. And so I think it would make it a lot easier if there is, such a contact list in order for us to reach out to folks. And then the other thing that I wanted to highlight is, I don't know if this will be addressed within the course, just hearing from folks all over, the world here and having family that is from the Global South and having grown up in the Global South, I really want to highlight just the distinction between direct, pollution and then long-term climate crisis, because there seems to be quite a lot put on the individuals, and that we cannot forget that the global north continues to impact the global south, including on pollution and the climate crises, whether we're talking about Latin America, Africa, or Asia. And so I think it's just an important distinction to make when we're saying that, the people don't care exactly where these long-term environmental impacts are mostly coming from, and that the global north still continues to dictate to the global south while exploiting and polluting the global south exactly how things should be held. Right now, the global south is not the leader in climate pollution for the most part. I won't say all of it, but for the most part. And so I just really want to make that distinction. And we also work with schools and school-age children. We have a youth program that takes kids as young as 14-year-olds that come from marginalized backgrounds to work directly on policy and systemic level change. And we actually take them to Congress. So if anybody is interested in learning about that, please reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat because for me, I do believe that, youth are a really important part of this entire equation, and we're learning from them, and they're very dedicated, and they're already growing up with this idea in their head that this climate may not, this planet may not be livable for them. So just wanted to throw that out there in case anybody is interested in learning or talking about our youth program.
So thank you. That was really interesting. So first off, I'll start at the end. So for your youth program, are you able to share what the organization you're working with? Because it sounds really impressive that you're taking them to talk to Congress. So you're training them to lobby.
Yes. So the program is our Youth Steering Committee, and we focus on food sovereignty and food justice for youth and getting healthy plant-based foods into their schools. They also do individual advocacy where they're working directly in their own impacted communities, not just at the federal level. And so they are paid for their labor because we believe in paying people. And so they have policy priorities. They're learning what policy and lobby advocacy is. They have their own individual program as well. And they focus on about, I would say 4 to 6 bills, all which deal with the impacts of, let's say, factory farming on impacted communities, as well as food injustice. And so everything that's related to food systems, whether that's environmental injustice or food injustice. And they go and speak not just with the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, the United States Department of Agriculture, as well as the Executive Office of the President and their legislators and their agriculture committee members, who obviously are all responsible for these issues. And for those in the United States, I'm sure you're aware that the Farm Bill is really what's going on right now, and the big fight in the Farm Bill, besides the climate issue, because they do not want to support agriculture that's better for the planet. They also want to do away with a lot of programs within SNAP, which is our food program in the United States for people who of lower income.
Yeah, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So it goes by SNAP.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Did you tell us what organization it is that
it's called Chili's on Wheels with 1 L.
What is it again?
Chili's, CHILIS on Wheels.
On Wheels, Chili's on Wheels. And okay. And you're based out of New York City?
We're based and we're founded in New York, but our work is national.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm gonna, if you put something, the website or whatever in the chat, that'd be great. I've done a lot of work on the Farm Bill through several climate organizations that I've been involved in. So I'm really interested in knowing more about what you're doing. So you raised 2 other points. We have 11 minutes left, so we can't spend too much time. But in terms of the contact information, we don't share people's emails or, their personal information, but I could make a Google Doc or maybe you have another idea of how to do this. And then anybody who's interested can share their information, and I can put that in our weekly, an email to everybody in the course, on our WhatsApp group, our Facebook group. Do you think and we can have, columns, your name, your organization, your LinkedIn profile, and your email, something like that. Would that work for what you're thinking of?
Yeah, that would be great. I'm really impressed by everything that everyone's doing. So thank you everyone for all you do. And I would love to connect with some people or even amplify their work.
Okay, great. So, and if I don't do that, remind me, but I'll try to do that this week. And then the other thing you mentioned about global north, global south inequities, basically. So can you, briefly apply that fact? It's not an idea. I think you'd call it a fact in terms of the disproportionate impact of the global north on environmental issues and emissions. In terms of this course, and you're getting to know who's in the course and what the course is about. I mean, so one thing I was thinking while you're talking was that, okay, that means all of us in this course from the global north have an additional responsibility, for example. But I'm not sure what that is, and I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I didn't design the course, and I didn't realize that it was going to be such an international, group of folks in the course. I just, from my work, especially within UN policy, United Nations policy work, I think that having such an international group of folks perhaps really invites us to highlight those disparities and that lack of equity. Not sure how we would address that, or if it could be a session in the course. I just think that it's something important to address when we're speaking of the climate crisis and inequity and the disparity of power between the global north and the global south, even in shaping policy.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things that I'm hoping to do is that for those who are interested, we could continue weekly discussions about these issues and potentially bring in other speakers after the course ends. So it'd be just a online, Zoom-based community. We could do social media communications also. And that might be a place where we could have a speaker, a discussion on some of the issues that you're raising, because I think it's super important. So I will be announcing that towards the course end, that if anybody wants to continue just with this community, they would be welcome to. All right. So what else? Anything else? Anybody else wanted to contribute anything? Or are there any highlights from the chat that I missed? If not, I'm going to talk a little bit about our final project before we break up. But Fish or anybody else?
I think you can go ahead, talk about the final project for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will share my screen again, and then, oops. So we kind of covered this. So this is the final course project. And I can't remember what's posted so far, but this will be posted, all this information I'm giving you today, by early next week. So your final project is a short, 1 to 2 page climate advocacy plan. And this is what we'll be asking you to do. You can talk about the work that you're already doing, but if you're not doing work, you can sort of talk about what you would like to do in the future. And so I wanted you to describe the organization that you would be working with, the climate issue that you will address, the desired policy outcome, the strategy, whether it's lobbying or a public information campaign or whatever you're thinking about doing, your role or what's your contribution to the strategy, and then a timeline. And next week, we will be talking about theories or frameworks of policy change. So it's optional. You can apply one of those frameworks or theories covered in week 3 to your advocacy plan. Example organizations, they could include groups focused on climate, like Climate Reality, Climate Action Now, focused on food waste reduction, like Zero Waste Coalition, and on the environment, like Friends of Nature and Climate or Environmental Voter Project in the US or Sierra Club, as well as groups that focus on particular issues like transportation, energy, and low carbon diets. If you're looking for a group that you might want to join that you're not, and say maybe you're not part of a group now, you might want to be aware that not all groups have volunteer advocacy opportunities. Some groups are more, you pay your money and you're a member and then they do all the work, whereas other groups like Sierra Club, Climate Reality, they have local chapters that get involved in these activities. So you want to look for groups that welcome volunteers into different advocacy roles. And then you'll also talk about your strategies, whether it's letter writing, meeting with local officials, contributing to a public awareness campaign. These things are covered this week in the course. And then, this is totally open. You can use resources and ideas from the course and feel free to discuss your plan, not only with the organization that you would like to work with or that you're working with, but also friends, colleagues, and fellow students in this course. So I think that's it. Are there any questions on the final project? It's an advocacy plan, and then just wanted to remind you again of Hao Zhang or Dr. Zhang's webinar next week on Wednesday. So, and
Hi, Marianne, if I may.
Sure.
Next for final questions. Mine is more of a logistical question, if you don't mind. I saw that there were like some discrepancies with the date that the course was ending. Could you please clarify how we are to submit our final project? Is it through the edX Edge or is it via email?
Okay, it will be a Qualtrics survey. So I have a series
Okay.
of questions and you'll just, copy and paste your text or whatever into a Qualtrics survey. So again, I'll post that by early next week. The dates on the course, I apologize. To be honest, we copy and paste the course shell from other courses, and sometimes I forget to change all the dates. So in terms of new material, the course ends, so to speak, on Friday, June 14th, but we will be leaving the course platform open. Right now, and I haven't changed this yet, I will, it says that you need to get all your assignments done and the course, including the course project, as well as the discussion posts, by June 28th, but I'm going to extend that for a week until July 5th because a number of people didn't get the right messages the first week, so they're kind of like started a week later than people who did get the messages. So, and then Fish, do you remember, don't we usually leave the course materials up for quite a while after the final projects are due?
That's right. That's right.
For like
Yeah.
3 months or something, so people can go back and do readings you might have missed or look at lectures or look at the discussion.
Right. We don't
Yes.
we don't technically close the course. Well, I think on the China side, yeah, we do the same. So we keep them there, but we strongly suggest you keep your own notes from the lectures, from those readings. And since those readings are actually in PDF version, which is not really legal if you spreading it to the outside of the course, and to add to the final project, I think we are going to use Qualtrics, but it's not going to be copy paste from your text. It's actually to upload your PDF, either PDF or Word version.
I'm sorry. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's all right. So you can attach your a few pictures, diagrams if you like, but into a one single document. So eventually we will grade your documents instead of your text you copied. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Qualtrics survey is basically just your name and your email or whatever, and then upload a file would be the next field.
We are sending everybody an email, and people will have a link in the email, and then you click into, goes to this platform to submit your final project documents.
Okay, great.
Thank you for the clarifications. The reason I asked that is because under, I guess, we're the date section of the edX Edge, there's language there that says all of the content will be archived. So I would assume that we would no longer have access to it after June 14th, unless the date there is
it will be, sorry for interrupting.
No worries.
I don't know, June 14th is just because we have 4 weeks of the course, so kind of ignore that date. It's like we release the information on Sundays, And then you have till Fridays to complete it if you're keeping up with the course schedule. But we have 3 more weeks that will keep the course open and allow you to still submit discussion questions, the Qualtrics survey for your final project, et cetera. Then and that goes to July 5th. After that, we'll still keep the course open for another 2 months. So that I think I don't know how to change the dates because I don't want it to say, you know, like August or whatever, September, because you do not have that long to turn in your final assignment, but you will have that long to have access to any materials in the course. Does that make sense, Nikki?
Yes, yes,
Cool.
thank you. Thank you very much.
And I will say one other thing, we need to go because it's 10:01, but we also have an optional presentation day or 2 days, depending on how many students are interested. So if you want to give a presentation on your final project, we'll set up some days during July with different time slots that you can fill, you know, you can sort of sign up for different time slots. And we usually have them about 10, 15 minutes each student has, you know, 5 minutes presentations, 5 minutes for questions. And so we would love to have you present about your work at the final presentations or final project presentations in July. And so I'll be sending some notices about that in the next week or 2. We need to go, but thanks so much for everybody's contributions and for being part of the course. Fish, do you have a Chinese session?